Welcome back to the Kingdom Life Unfiltered podcast. I am your host, Janeen Marino, and today I have with me my friend Courtney Powers. Thank you, Courtney, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Me too. All right, so let me tell you a little bit about Courtney. She grew up in a lukewarm for Jesus family, walked through deep trauma, ADHD, lifelong depression, and anxiety, and yet God really stepped in and radically changed everything. Since 2013, he's used her family to bless countless others through ministry, RV travel, and now a brand new nonprofit in Florida. Her story is one of miracles, resilience, and obedience. So, Courtney, I am so excited to jump in and just hear a little bit more of your testimony and what you guys are doing. You have lived such a powerful transformation. Before we dive in, how would you describe what God has done in your life in like one sentence or a couple of sentences?
I would say, transformation, like you said, transformation. I think that that is a good word to use for that. He has not only like transformed my heart, but really like our lives with the ministry. And that was kind of my stepping off point for my relationship with him as an adult. Not something that I had when I was younger. And so It's been it's been a long journey, but very exciting.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so you said that you came from a family that was lukewarm for Jesus. What was your faith or spiritual life like? What did that look like growing up?
Simply put, we went to church. We went to church on Sunday mornings, Sunday nights, Wednesday nights. My family was like, one of the church families in the small town that I grew up in. It wasn't like I never learned that relationship with Jesus. And I was baptized at 12. And then when I was 14, we moved to a big city and we didn't really go to church much. I will tell you, and this is one of the things that I'm passionate about now, growing up with a single mom, trying to, like her taking us to church, the three of us, people didn't talk to us. So like she tried when we were like in high school, people didn't talk to us. We could go to multiple churches and not anybody would say a word, us as new people in a church. And it was such a weird thing because actually after she married my now dad, so was my stepdad, he adopted us. So we went back to like one of those same churches and people welcomed us and were nice. And it was like this whole different thing. It was crazy. And that's something that I keep kind of in the back of my head all the time when there's new people that I meet at church, families, single people, whoever. Like I make a point to talk to people
Mhm.
because that's just crazy to me.
That is
And
crazy.
so, like in high school, we just didn't really go to church because my mom didn't feel comfortable. And so I kind of never really had that basis of a relationship with God. And then I kind of not necessarily walked away like the prodigal son, but like I had some years where I didn't make the best decisions in my early 20s and you
Yeah.
know, it was something. And I met my husband at 27. And so I had my girls. They were 3 and 6 months, and he brought me back to church, and then that's all history. But
I kind of have a similar story. I was actually raised in a Catholic church in the Catholic school, and
oh
but I
wow,
did kind of walk away. I was kind of like, this isn't for me. And then I did all the wrong things until then I was a single mom, and that
yeah,
was when I got baptized, was when I was a single mom. So
oh
crazy.
wow, nice,
Well, I think first off, so sad that your mom was not like acknowledged. You think it was because
yeah.
she was a single mom?
I think that's the way I see it. I think, I mean, like, let's be honest, a lot of churches these days, like the modern church, it's not as bad as, those people that stand on the side of the road and are yelling things, but a lot of churches can be judgy
Yeah.
about people and maybe not even realizing it,
Mhm.
it may not be a conscious thing, but it's things that like, it's definitely noticeable. And I
Yeah.
think that it was just this like, I don't know. I don't know exactly what it was, but I think that's what it had to do with. So,
Yeah, that makes me so sad. Sometimes I feel like
yeah.
Christians don't always do a great job of representing Jesus and being the hands and feet and just loving
Yeah.
people the way that they should be loved. So, well, tell me a little bit about like what were some of the struggles and the trauma and the different things with like ADHD and depression and anxiety that really shaped you as a young woman when you were going through all that?
So the crazy thing is a lot of that I did not recognize until the last few years. And I've kind of looked at things and I'm like, oh, that's why I did those things, or that's why I was like this. From all of those kind of lifelong struggles that were never really, I guess, noticed necessarily. I did not realize until probably the last 6 months that I had and it's all of these things are still things that I'm struggling through and like working with a therapist and with God and trying to kind of work through it all. Trauma wise was a lot of stuff with my biological father. And I don't want to get into all of that because it's a lot to unpack. But
Okay.
um my sisters and I like went through a lot, and um I think we kind of dealt with it differently as adults. And so I am more, I kind of took that and am, I guess, using that to help others and to like see other people and what they're going through. One of my sisters, she doesn't remember a lot. They're twins, so they're only 2 years
Oh,
younger than me, but they were like the people that, I took care of our whole childhoods. And I'm glad that they don't remember as much as I do.
wow.
I am thankful for that.
For sure. That's good. So if someone else is in a similar situation and they don't necessarily know that that is what they're dealing with, what are some symptoms or some things that you noticed that pointed in that direction? Like if someone may have had a traumatic childhood, but they don't really know that they're dealing with that stuff right now, what would that look like? What are some tips you?
Some things that I've noticed about myself is, well, I started having panic attacks and not knowing why.
Mm.
Which it was things that would trigger me. So, like with anxiety, which the anxiety comes from a lot of the trauma, and then um, I've learned a lot because I've talked to a couple different physicians, like natural physicians and then therapists, about the link between like the way that your brain works, the what trauma, especially childhood trauma, which is completely like that's a whole different ball game than like it's no worse than I think like trauma as an adult, but it does shape your brain differently
It does.
as a child when your brain is developing. So it kind of so there's a lot of links between the ADHD, trauma, and anxiety and the depression, and so it kind of all flows together sometimes with the symptoms of like the panic attacks and the having heightened sensitivity to different things. I was just talking about this last night. I can feel like a complete shift in the room with somebody's mood. I can just, and I'll say stuff to my husband a lot because I'm like, okay, that person is really upset. I know you don't realize they're upset, but I can tell that they're upset. So, and it's things like that that I realize. And those are the kind of things that I'm kind of working through. My therapist is amazing, and she's always like, I don't think that you would be the same type of like entrepreneur person if you didn't have all of these things. She's like, I know they are not, great things that you've gone through. She said, but it's kind of shaped the way that your brain works. Cause she says, I'm creative and I am always coming up with business ideas. I always say that I could just sit and like come up with business ideas and just sell them to people because I don't have like
Me
once I
too.
come up with it, I'm over it. I'm like, okay, that was cool, but like I don't actually want to do it.
That's so funny. Yeah, I can definitely relate to some of that because I had some childhood trauma too. And one of the things that made me realize that because I had gone to a therapist and I thought like I dealt with it and I went through
Yeah.
some inner healing and I was like, I'm good. But then there came a time where I have five boys. And so there came a time where they would get riled up and they're just playing or they're not even doing
Yeah.
anything wrong. Like sometimes they're wrestling, but they're just play wrestling and or anything would happen and I would retreat to my room. And I didn't actually realize I was doing it at first until I was like, every time it gets loud, I hide.
Yeah.
And I didn't, and it wasn't like like I always do that. It was like it started happening one day where I was like, all of a sudden, I just couldn't handle it anymore. And I was like, what's happening to me? So I started talking to somebody and realized that it was a little bit of like anxiety, panic attack, like PTSD, stuff like that. It was like a trigger for me. And I was like, well, that's
Yeah.
great because I'm still going to have 5 boys.
Yeah. Right.
But I've had to explain that to them sometimes. It's like I'll hit a certain point and then I can't handle it. And it
Where
doesn't
you're just
happen.
overstimulated.
Yes, way
Yes. That's a big thing
overstimulation.
for me is the overstimulation. Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like as moms, especially in the world we live in today, it's digital and everything's moving
Yeah.
at lightning speed and there's so many things happening and we're aware of all of them, which is
Yeah.
insane. It didn't used to be that way. Like I don't watch the news and because I'm on social media, I know everything that's happening. Like it's crazy. So I think that has a lot to do with it too, but it's so good to recognize it and to name it and to work through it because we could easily just go through life. Well, that's just how it is. But if we don't heal it and we don't do the things, that's not gonna. And then also, we tend to pass those things on or pass
Yeah.
those behaviors on. So, anyways, good job. So, let's talk about a little bit about the turning point. So, in 2014, you decided to help a family for the holidays, and you said God completely took over from there. So, take us into that moment and what happened.
Okay. It always gives me chills talking about this because the way that he did, like, it's just so crazy. So I will explain. I mean, so I had, so that was the year we got married. So we had the two little girls, we had two teenagers at home. And I was like, hey, let's, this is a good year. I don't know. I just had it in my head. I was like, let's just help a family for the holidays. Like, I think that would be fun. So that year we just did Christmas and I kind of posted something out into, Facebook land on our local group in Columbus and I said I wanted to help a family and the amount of responses was crazy. And like reading through all of these people's stories and I was like, okay, I can't just help one family. Like that, how do I choose? And so I put something out to family and friends and I was like, anybody want to help a family for the holidays? If you can help, I will organize everything. I did not realize how that would go. That one. And it was funny because I always like I never felt like I was selfish, like a selfish person before that. I mean, I had little kids. I'd always like babysat for people and I don't know, I always did things. I took care of my family, like my sisters, my mom, stuff like that. But then looking back, I think how selfish I was before starting with it. And I think that's one thing that God, I think, wanted to work on in me is for not just to have like like the deep empathy for people, but to just be able to look at people and see that no matter what somebody's going through, we can always help somebody and without the judgment. We can help them without the judgment. We can help them without strings attached. We can help them just to help people and not have this big grand plan of like, oh well, they need to go to church first or they need to do this or they like, I mean, I feel like a lot of times people put stipulations um on helping people. So I that year we did I'm trying to think how many we did the first year. I think it might have been like only 20 families or something like that for the holidays. For Christmas that year, it was an adventure. I think that was the first year when we delivered Christmas presents to all the families. We
The best.
got done. We had a trailer. We delivered all the Christmas presents. And at the end, on the last house, we blew a tire on our car and had to have one of the teenagers come and help. And we were like, okay, cool. It's fine. I had fun. It was great. My sister helped me like organize all the gifts. It was, a rocky first year. But then the second year, I was like, I'm going to do this again, but I'm going to do Thanksgiving and Christmas. And so I did the second year and it just kind of kept growing. We got um people that helped like in that first year too, which was really cool, was there was a lady that had seen my post about help, like to help families, and she worked at a chiropractor's office and she was like, if you give me information, I will put a tree up, like we can put a tree up at the office and people can do like an angel tree thing. And so she was with us from the year one until we moved. And she did an angel tree every year. She was amazing. And then we added, after a few years, we added some more businesses that did angel trees. So we were up to like 3 or 4. And then we had a lot of people that helped every single year with gifting. And we had some amazing people that at the end each year, like when I'd have that like last post of like, okay, we really, really, really need this, or we just added this or whatever. And I'd have those few people that would be like, here you go. And they would just like drop stuff off, like just whatever we needed. And it was great. We grew by 2020 was the last year we did Thanksgiving, Christmas. We did like 200 kids and 50 families, I think, for Thanksgiving.
Wow.
And then also on top of that, because we got so many donations every year of like not only like new stuff, but like used stuff people would drop off my house. I always said that my house looked like a toy store blew up, like from November, December. It was crazy. And we also did a shopping day then. We had started that a few years in because we just would always, we would always keep adding families, but we'd still just have so much stuff. And I never give out used stuff for the Christmas program. Like I make sure we get a detailed list from the parents so that the kids get specifically what they need or ask for, and then it's all new. So there's nothing used. But we started doing these shopping days. So after the families get their stuff on Saturday, the Saturday before Christmas, we would have like a shopping day either later that day or like one of the few days after that. And we would set up, we did it differently every year. The first year we did it though, we were not prepared. A little side story, we did gift wrapping at the mall each year up until they wouldn't let us do it in 2020. But up until then, we did gift wrapping. And that would be, they would split the donations. The mall would split the donations with us. And so we would be able to use that for stuff during the year, during the next year. And I stayed to gift wrap. This was 2018 was the first year we did the big shopping day. And I stayed because I had Chase, who was an infant. I mean, I had him in November.
Yeah.
And so we stayed gift wrapping. And my friend Julie and my husband went home to do the shopping time for the families. And we had just put a time. And they got home an hour before it was supposed to start. And we had cars lined down our street. And people were at our door, lined up all the way down our sidewalk and down the side of our yard, waiting.
Wow. That's crazy.
And that was after all the families got like from the program for all the families that we did. So like it was crazy to see how many people needed help. And then the amount of miracles that we saw that God did was just absolutely crazy.
I love that. So how did you connect it? Did they know that you were doing it because you guys were Christians, or was it just like, we're just going to bless this family?
So yes, people knew that we were doing it. So we would pray with families. We would ask if people had prayer requests. Depending on the year, we would do pickups. Like we did pickups at our church one year. One year we did the library, or I think a couple years we did the library. So it just depended. But yes, I was very open about that. And I would talk to people. And the cool thing was, we'd be able to tell people each year like the different stories about like the miracles or the ones that people saw.
Yeah.
I think the best part was, and sometimes we would talk about this, is that not only the families that got the help were blessed, but we would always, every year we'd add more like volunteers, and the volunteers, like they were so blessed and they got to see so much, and they got to see like the love of Jesus. Not only they could help, but it would just, I think, increase their faith, or even help if they had, if they were on the fence or whatever. I mean, I know a couple friends that would definitely say that they saw some things, and it's just so cool that the way that he works, and that he doesn't do anything the same way twice.
Yeah, for sure. Well,
There's no playbook. There's no like, oh, I
yeah.
do this and then he does. No, he will not do it twice.
Right, right. Oh gosh, I love how it was this natural thing of like, there's all these needs. We got to meet the needs. And
Yeah.
naturally Jesus is woven into it. Because sometimes it is very much like, you got to come to church and pick it up, or we're
Yeah.
doing this, or we're gonna hand out. And not that it's bad to hand out gospel tracts or anything. I mean, that's okay to do. I just feel like sometimes it's those natural conversations that happen, or just knowing what the family's going through. Obviously they need help, and so
Yeah.
that gives you the opportunity to be like, how can I pray for you? Like, is there anything that going on right now that we can help pray about? And so
Yeah.
that is So I love that.
I
So
also think that part of like yes, I agree with the gospel tracts and all that kind of stuff, but I think sometimes churches that do that kind of stuff go a little bit heavy on that kind of, and my thing is we that's an assumption that somebody going through a hard time does not know Jesus already. That's an assumption because just because they're going through a hard time does not mean that they don't know him. Just because they're going through a hard time does not mean somebody's not going to struggle. And I think that comes from a mindset of people that maybe have not ever struggled in that way, and so they just can't understand. And I've been in contact with those people recently. It's hard. It's hard for me to explain it, and I think it's hard for them to get it. You know, that's not what it's about. It's about just loving people, and they may already know Jesus, and maybe it's and my big thing is you don't ever know how what God is asking you to do is going to impact somebody. You don't know if it's going to bring them to the Lord. You don't know if it's going to um like completely radically change their lives, right? You don't know if it's going to be this prayer of like their last prayer of like, I need to see you, God. Like you don't know what that could do, but like we still need to do it, even if we don't know what the results are going to be. Like we don't know if they're going to go to church, but
100%.
they may still give their life to the Lord,
Yeah.
or they may have already
Or they
done that,
might
and
just
maybe they
remember it. They
and
might
they might
just,
just remember it. Yeah, I mean, you just don't
or
know.
it could be you just made a really big drip on one of the kids, like you really don't
Yeah.
have any idea. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So
I
is
think
that,
going into that kind of thing without expectations
yeah. Well,
is
and
the right way to do it.
I think having expectations on God to show
Yes.
up and to do the thing
Yeah.
and that he's gonna touch them during that time, but not having expectations on them.
Yeah,
Okay, now they have
exactly.
to become a Christian. That's not how that works.
Yeah. No.
So I think that's good. So tell me a little bit about this step of obedience then became kind of the catalyst for this whole ministry. So tell me a little bit about what that is and what does that look like?
The ministry or like the
Yeah, so
okay.
was it just surrounded around the holidays like Easter
So
or not Easter, Thanksgiving and
Thanksgiving,
Christmas?
Christmas. So it actually grew from there.
Yeah.
So that's what we did for the first few years. And then in 2017, I decided, okay, we need to make this nonprofit. And so we used that money from the gift wrapping that year at Christmas. And in 2018, we applied, like we did the corporation and applied for the 501(c)(3). And I had heard from a few friends that worked for nonprofits. They're like, oh, it's going to take a while. Don't expect it to be quick. And I was like, okay, well, it would be nice if it's quick because I really want to get started on some things. And we went on a trip. We decided last minute that year in 2018, a week after I found out I was pregnant with my youngest, we went on a spring break trip to go to this homeless village in Austin, Texas to stay. We stayed there for a week in a yurt. It was an experience. It was
Nice.
pretty fun. The kids had a blast. But we drove like whatever 18 hours or something like that to Austin, Texas for spring break. And I was like, I told my husband while we were there, just like one of those like conversations of like, it'd be really cool if our paperwork was at the house when we got home. And
Yeah.
he was like, oh, yeah, but that's not going to happen. We just applied like a month ago. And I was like, well, I mean, it would be cool. I'm just saying. We got home, we were approved, and our paperwork was in the mailbox when we got home from our trip in
That's
March. And we
awesome.
had just applied in February. And I was like, wow, that was crazy. It literally took a month. We were 501(c)(3. We were good to go with our EIN. And so we just kind of ran from there. And we also had started a business. So we were doing hauling, like junk hauling,
Hmm.
and we just do a flat rate. You could fill the trailer. Well, that grew at the same time with the ministry because we would just talk to people that we were doing jobs for, that we had a nonprofit and we were, helping families. And so people would literally not only call us but recommend us to people because of that. And we would pick up loads of stuff that we would get paid like ourselves to pick up, and then we could give away all of this perfectly good stuff to families.
Oh,
So
wow.
known as like the
Combo.
free porch of Columbus. People knew that they could come anytime. I would post stuff constantly of like what we had. We were doing tons of jobs, and it even got crazier in 2020 because people were going through stuff and they were home in Ohio because they weren't working. And so we were so busy, just constantly with stuff. I mean, we would have like clean outs where we would have just loads of stuff where people could come and get free furniture, things that they needed. Anytime somebody would ask, like, hey, do you have this? I either would have it or it would show up. So
That's awesome.
that kind of became its own thing, like this whole other thing that we could help the families that we were already helping with the holidays. And then in 2020, I had thought about this for years. I wanted to do some kind of birthday thing, and I kept thinking about it, and I never felt like it was the right time to do it. And then in January of 2020, I was like, we're just going to do it this year. We're going to do birthday baskets and see how it goes. I mean, we'll do it for a few months, and then if it doesn't work out, we won't do it. And
Yeah.
so we started it. And the first like 2 months, we did a few, like maybe 3 or 4. And then we were gone for part of March. We were supposed to be gone the whole month of March. We went to Nicaragua on a family mission trip.
Nice.
And then we had to come back early because of everything. And so we were gone like, I think we were gone like 17 days or something. And so for March, like I had everything ready. My friend did the couple in March. And then after that, it blew up. We were doing 20 to 30 birthday baskets a month for families that needed it, which included like party supplies, cake, icing, the candles, and then gifts.
Wow. That's
So it was a
awesome.
little basket that had all the birthday stuff. That blew up. I had no idea. I mean, obviously, I had no idea that all of that was going to happen and that it was going to be a big need that year
Especially in
for people that were out
2020.
of work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy. And it was so funny because my husband always, and he actually just said this to me the other day because I said what I'm thinking for this year for the holidays. And he was like, why do you always just like push it to the edge? I'm like, it's not me. I promise. It's God. He's always like, just do this and then I'll work it out later. It's fine. So yeah, because he thought, he was like, oh, those birthday basket things, that's going to be really hard for you to do because you have to coordinate like getting all this stuff, like having people donate everything or donate the money. And then make sure the families like come pick up and all that. But it worked out great. I mean, people were like, they were just dropping off all the things every month. People would ask me like, how much do you need? And we had everything we needed every month for every kid.
I love that. And I feel like that is such a blessing that you were able to do that during COVID and everything. Like, how
Yeah.
incredible
I mean,
that
the fact
that was
that,
all lined up right then
yeah,
and there. That's
yeah.
such a God thing.
It is. I mean, the fact that he put it like he was like, you need to do it right now. Even though I'd been thinking about it and I kept thinking every year, I was like, we should really do this. But I just never felt like it was the right time. And then he was like, you need to do it. Now, nobody knew what was going to happen. I mean, I had no clue. But the fact that he made it at the exact right time that people would be out of work and they needed that. And and then there was people that were working from home that were just like, cleaning out their closets and they were, donating perfectly good brand new stuff. And they
Yeah.
had the time and the money still to be able to help people. And they were like, well, right now, I want to help people. So it just, the way that it all worked out. And the crazy thing is, I didn't want to come home from Nicaragua because I was like,
I'm
what are we going
sure.
to do? We're going to be bored sitting. I'm like, I'm not sitting at home. And so I mean, I had no clue that he planned on us just being crazy busy. So,
That's awesome. Yeah. So
yeah.
we actually, and we're going to move into this part of the conversation too. But during that time, we actually lived in Florida in an RV. We were traveling full
Oh,
time.
that's cool. Yeah.
And so that's where we were quarantined at a campground in Florida. So let's talk about RV life. So packed up and hit the road in a
Yeah.
camper. That wasn't the plan. So tell me what led to that decision? How did that happen?
So his company downsized in 2021 and he was like, we can do what we want. He had wanted to do the camper thing for a while and I was not on board. I was like, that just doesn't sound fun to me. But then I said, well, I mean, we could do it for a year. Like that'd be fine, right? We can just go travel for a year. Um, Now I do think that, like looking back, I think that was a way for us to get here because we wouldn't have done that otherwise. I don't think we would have moved otherwise, but he kind of orchestrated all of it to get us here. It did not go as we planned in any way, shape, or form. Um, it was an adventure to say the least. We, from the beginning, had car issues with our
Oh,
car and ended up in Alabama. I had to cancel a bunch of reservations that we had because we couldn't get to where we were supposed to be going. And so we tried the working at a campground thing in North Carolina and it was terrible. That was not for us. So we kind of headed back and down in because we decided we don't want to be in the cold anymore if we can help it. We're mobile. Like, why
Totally.
are we in the cold in North Carolina? It
100%.
was terrible over the winter.
Yeah.
So we went all the way down into Mobile, and we were like, if we're gonna be somewhere, we want to be somewhere warm. So we tried Mobile, and we kind of worked our way across over the span of we got to Mobile in like January of 2022, and we kind of worked our way across here until we ended up in Pensacola last year. But it's definitely, we met so many people. Like, there are still people that I talk to. There was one campground that we stayed in northern Alabama. We absolutely loved the northern Alabama area. It was gorgeous. It was fun. We had so much
What I
fun.
heard.
And the campground that we stayed at in Athens, they were the sweetest couple ever. They were like another set of grandparents for my kids. They were just absolutely adorable. And I still talk to her on Facebook and Messenger and stuff. She's just, they are so sweet. We had the best time there. And there's other people that I've met. I mean, I'm still friends with some people from the campgrounds that we've been. So it was great meeting people. Like, that was the fun part for me.
Oh yeah, the RV
And
community is next level. It's so
it
good.
is. Well, and then at the end, towards the end of our journey, which we didn't know was going to be the end because that was another God thing. It was insane. We ended up at this campground twice over here in Baldwin County in Alabama. And the second time we ended up there, there was a lot of people like living there full time, right? Because they'd had some issues or whatever, people that lived there because they had been homeless or
Mhm.
whatever. And we ended up getting to kind of show that love of Jesus to these families. And we were feeding like 20 kids a day
Oh wow.
from our camper. And we were like a safe place for people and
That's
being
awesome.
able to talk to people and help people. And it was really cool for those last, I don't know what, we got there in October, I think, of 2023. And then I think it was October. And then we moved into our house in February of last year, which, okay, so a little side story on that. That was insane God moment because we went to Christmas back in Ohio
Yeah.
in 2023, stayed at my parents for a week, and then drove home. And it took us 3 days to get home. That should take us 12 hours. It was crazy. And we got home and we were out of room. Like, we brought all the Christmas stuff home. We had no room, none for anything. We couldn't even put stuff away. And so I just started praying. I was like, okay, we've got to get out of this camper. We're done. Like, I'm done. We have no space. Just, it was, it was getting to be to that point where I was like, okay, something's got to give. And so I just kept praying. And in February, we literally everything lined up. And within like, from talking about it to getting our house, it was just like a couple weeks in February. And we moved in. And I think it was like the last day of February of that year.
That's
So yeah,
incredible.
it
I
was it was such a God. Like, I think that he heard that. And I think that also now, like, looking back, I know that everything happens for a reason,
yeah.
but also in the thick of that, sometimes it's hard.
Oh gosh, yeah. You're lucky that it worked out that easy because sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you're like in that, in the desert waiting to get to the promised land, and it's can be really difficult to be in that waiting. But I totally understand the feeling of being done with the RV. Our RV is still our home base when we're back in the States. It's so good that that happened so quickly. I feel like there's so many times that
Yeah.
it does just happen overnight, and other times you're waiting and waiting and waiting, and then it's just like bam, and it just happens. Like, but wait, I was waiting
Yeah.
to see the signs first, but I thought that I was gonna like see this and then see that and then see this, and then it would be coming after that. And sometimes it's not like
No.
that. It's just like nothing, 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 bam. That's really cool. Well, tell me a little bit about then this new season in Florida, the nonprofit that you're doing there, and tell me what the vision is and what is it called?
Okay, so we're not actually at a name yet. So we
Okay.
are right now, I'm doing everything at the church that we're at. We are doing a food pantry. So a friend and I started it, and then we have added one other person since then. So there's three of us that are running the food pantry, and which has been such an amazing thing. It's been so great. I feel like it's really cool to be able to provide just that basic need,
Yeah.
that people have, but be able to connect with them and see them every month and be able to talk to people and, help them in other ways too. Um, so we also have a community closet. It's all in the same like room. But we have a community closet. So we have like clothes and shoes and all the household stuff, toys, all of that. And we're trying to kind of add as we go too. But we have that vision but also kind of like bigger ideas of and we haven't gotten to like a solid plan of how to do the things, but we definitely want to help. There's like a big need here for transportation
Mm.
for people like single parents or families that don't have, I mean, right now, like car prices are crazy, even for used cars. And so we help these families with transportation. We've seen a couple people like come where they had to, ride two buses and walk far to get to the food pantry, right? To get food for this one single mom for her family. And so we have a couple names that we're tossing around. So we're really excited for doing it. And I don't know where God is going to lead it. Um, but I know it's going to be good because he always just makes it happen.
He does. That's awesome. Well, if we end up in that area, I would love to help.
And
So, tell me a little bit about how can listeners support, get involved, or pray for you in this season?
prayer is always needed. So if people follow me, I have just my name, so Courtney Powers on Facebook,
Hmm?
and then I have an Instagram, Threads, all of that. Right now, I just have things under that until we get the actual nonprofit going. So if they follow me on, especially Facebook, I am I've started a podcast twice and like deleted everything. So I figured I'm just gonna get my feet wet and get on a couple episodes of other people and kind of get myself used to it again before I
Oh,
try to start that again. And then I also am looking at doing a YouTube for all of our outreach stuff so
awesome.
that we can share. Right now, I just do a lot of reels and live videos and share kind of what we're doing each month and how people can help. And it's been great. I mean, people are just like this month, we are starting our biggest need that we have noticed talking to families and having them kind of put their needs down each month is meat.
Mm.
It's expensive, and a lot of even families that get food stamps, first of all, they don't usually get enough to cover what they need, and meat is just so expensive. I mean,
Yeah,
so I already, in my obedience, I already put an order in at a meat market here that is amazing. They are like so amazing in helping the community and stuff. So I wanted to support them and put in an order to feed enough families that we want to feed this month, next weekend. And so I'm just like, okay, well, God will give the money and make it happen.
awesome.
Ready
I'll
for
make
it.
sure to pop all of your info in the show notes here.
Awesome.
So,
Thank you.
as we are wrapping up, what is one miracle you've witnessed that you'll never forget?
Oh, okay. That's hard to pick just one,
I know.
but I'm going to have to go with the Nerf gun.
Okay.
It, okay. It's so hard because I feel like a crazy person saying it out loud to people because they kind of stare at me. But we were doing the shopping day. This was I think it was 2020. We were doing the shopping day. My friend Megan and I did it like we had everything set up in my living room and people made appointments. That year we decided to do appointments so it wasn't chaotic. So we did appointments. We did it 2 days in a row. We were on the second day. We were down to whatever we had left. Like we had everything like in my kitchen. We pulled everything out. Everything was on the tables, under the tables, whether it was new or used stuff. A lady comes in for her appointment and she was like, the only thing that her teenage son wanted was Nerf guns. And I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, this is the second day. We had some yesterday. Like, they were brand new. We don't have any. This is what we have. Like, on the tables, these are the things that we have. And she was getting ready to leave and she was bummed. And my husband happened to walk in the door from work and he walked in. So he walked in through the back door, through the kitchen, and he heard us talking. He's like, "What are you looking for?" And I was like, "Well, there's nothing in there." I said, she wants a Nerf gun, but we don't have any. So I told her these are the toys and these are the different things that we have left. And he was like, "You mean like this?" And he walked into the living room with a big brand new Nerf gun that he said was sitting on the table.
Huh.
And I was like, no, it wasn't. There was nothing in the kitchen. Like, and my friend Megan looked at me and she's like, we literally just pulled everything out of the kitchen. There was nothing left. We
Oh
wouldn't have
my
missed a
word.
big Nerf gun in a box, like brand new on the table.
Mm.
And he was like, well, it was here. He said, I don't know, God must have done it. And I was like, uh, obviously, but how?
Oh my gosh.
It was so great. This lady was so excited And she's like, this, he's going to be so happy. And I was like,
Aw.
don't thank us. We did not do it. It was so cool. It was just, it was so cool. And I think for my friend Megan too, like to be able to see something like that was amazing. You know,
Mm,
for somebody that had probably, I don't think she's seen a lot of those kind of miracles. And so to see that was, yeah, it was just,
that's
wow.
awesome. I
And
love
that's just
that.
one of many. So,
Yeah, for sure. Okay, one
yeah.
more question.
Yes.
What would you say to someone listening who feels like they're too broken or too anxious to be used by God?
No, no. If he's using me, he can use anybody for sure. And that's what I just say. Take the first step, like whatever he's telling you, because you can just feel it. You can like if he's telling you to do something, just do it. And I say this coming from somebody who has been avoiding a few things that he's been telling me to do for the last few years, that I'm starting to kind of get there. But just be obedient, and he takes care of it. Like he will take care of everything if you're just obedient. Just take the first step.
Mm, 100%. I honestly, this podcast was one of mine. When I first got started with this, when he was telling me, I was like, no, I'm not supposed to do that. That's for like people that like to talk. And not that I don't like to talk, but you know what I mean. I just was like, you're talking to the wrong person, but that's his plans. So, all right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your testimony and just what God's been doing in your life and what you guys are doing in Florida. That is amazing. I will make sure to drop all the show notes and stuff below so you can get in touch with Courtney. And take away from this that, God can take an ordinary yes and really multiply it into miracles for many families. So, it's so good. Every time I have stepped out into obedience, and I know you can agree with this too, it's always such a blessing, like a bigger blessing
Oh
than
yeah.
you could ever imagine. And it
Yep.
just, every time we do that and we focus on him, I feel like it just makes, like, you think you're going from like A to B and he brings you to C or D, it's just, it
Oh yeah.
blows it out of the water. So thank
Yep.
you so much, everyone. And thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, guys, we'll see you next time.